Hello everyone, welcome back to the Edexcel Hub. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 2, Separation Techniques of Mixtures. The first technique is filtration. Filtration separates a solid from a liquid. It can also be used to separate two solids from each other if only one of them is soluble in water. The substance left in the filter paper is called the residue, and the liquid that comes through it is called the filtrate. A real-life example of this is making pure salt from rock salt. Next is crystallization. Crystallization separates a solute from a solution. A solute is the substance that dissolves in a solvent, and the solution is the mixture formed. The solution is first heated in an evaporating basin to boil off some of the water until an almost saturated solution is formed. A test for this is by dipping a glass rod into the solution and seeing if crystals form quickly on its surface when it is removed. The Bunsen burner is then turned off, allowing the crystals to form as more water evaporates and the solution cools. The crystals can now be removed from the mixture by filtration. The apparatus for this is shown in the image. Next is simple distillation. Simple distillation separates the components of a solution. First, heating the liquid mixture to the boiling point takes place, and then the condenser immediately condenses the resulting vapors. Finally, you can collect the salt from solution and the pure water. The salt remains in the flask and water is condensed and goes in the flask as pure water. Sometimes the salt becomes very concentrated that the salt will eventually crystallize. An example of this is separating salt water to create pure water and salt. The next process is fractional distillation. Fractional distillation separates mixtures of liquids that have similar boiling points. When heated, the liquid mixture is converted into vapors that rise into the fractionating column based on their different boiling points. The vapors now cool and condense on the walls of the condenser, which then can be collected in the beaker. This method is only effective for mixtures where the boiling points of the liquids are very different. This is mainly used in the separation of crude oil. The last technique is paper chromatography. Paper chromatography separates a variety of mixtures. First, draw a line with a pencil across a piece of chromatography paper. This line should be about 1 centimeter from the bottom of the paper. And do not use a pen, as the colors in the ink may move up the chromatography paper with the solvent. Then put a spot of the mixture of dyes using a capillary tube on the pencil line and allow it to dry. Then suspend the chromatography paper in a beaker that contains a small amount of solvent so that the bottom of paper goes into the solvent. It is important that the solvent is below the pencil line so that the inks or colorings don't just dissolve in the solvent. Then put a lid on the beaker so that the atmosphere becomes saturated with the solvent. This is to stop evaporation of the solvent from the surface of the paper. When the solvent has moved up the paper to about 1 centimeter from the top, remove the paper from the beaker and draw a pencil line to show where the solvent got to. The highest level of solvent on the paper at any time is called the solvent front. Leave the paper to dry so that all the solvent evaporates. Next, let's talk about the analysis of the paper chromatography experiment. If the dye does not move from the pencil line during an experiment, then this dye is not soluble in the solvent you are using. In this case, you have to find a different solvent. If the dyes move up the paper with the solvent front, the dye is too soluble in the solvent you are using, and you have to try a different solvent. The RF value is the retardation factor. This is calculated using the formula distance moved by the spot from the pencil line divided by the distance moved by the solvent front from the pencil line. This retardation factor is always less than 1. That's all from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos. And don't forget to share to your friends. Have a great day.